Hey YouTube, HiveRadical here. So I was just responding a few comments. I didn't think it was going to take too long. A lot of people are probably going to be ticked at me for this because I've promised like 5 or 6 or 7 videos, and I am working on them slowly but slowly. So I started responding to Telemantros Questions. They are: number 1, is human life valuable? 2, is there a standard of morality? 3, does life have purpose? 4, how do you account for the universality of logical law? 5, why is there sickness, suffering, and sadness in life? 5b, is there a fix to sickness, suffering, and sadness? So I was putting down these things, and it was kind of amazing because it was fleshing out. I mean, I've done it before in private recordings, but I hadn't done it, things I thought about, and it's not everything I thought about, but it's a pretty good summary. And I got done posting all these comments. I realized, oh my word, I put a ton of comments. So I just thought I'd read these since I already have them written down. That's usually what bothers me up, is thinking about these and making sure I get them down right before I come on a video. And since, well, I have them written, I decided I might as well just go ahead and read them off here and make a video, have that posted. It is something I feel I want to share. Okay, my answer to the first question, and again this question was, is human life valuable? And I start my answer to that with, and I say depends on what it's being compared to. Value is relative to the totality of what is being judged. Okay, number 2 is there a standard of morality? My answer is yes. Some may say that there are various or infinite standards of morality, but ultimately there is only one, of which the others are either derivative parts and or full or partial distortions of. Question number 3 is, does life have purpose? And I started off a little bit, I don't know, I'll just read it. Life's purpose, speaking in terms of humans, mankind, is to determine what each of us will be, where our wills will take us. This has a supplemental and superior purpose of maximizing the joy of man, or humans. Question number 4 is, how do you account for the universality of logical law? My answer, not entirely certain as to what you're asking. We apply our constructs and systems of cognition, logic, to all we perceive. Since there's feedback in this, the nature of these constructs enabling or disabling or distorting perception, or the alteration of the system itself, I think some universality is emergent in the fact that consciousness and existence, by definition, is continuous. Things must exercise influence over something at some moment, or they effectively don't exist. What is emergent from having influence, interaction, or connection with some other element or force is structure. If everything acted independent of everything else, then there would effectively be no existence. Directly emergent from this is a structure, because the moment there's connection and influence, there's existence. Then, depending on the degree to which something acts or is acted upon, some structure will be inherent in their respective spheres of influence of each element. Again, this is for lack of a better word. Things will act and be acted upon, attract, repel, dominate, or fall under subjugation. This gets into interesting territory and leads right to your next point. And it's all centered around will or agency. If agency doesn't exist, then there's no relevance to creation. Just as there must be something to act and something to be acted upon, for there to be true existence, there must be agency at some point, or it's not really existing. On to number 5 then. 5 and this was, why is there sickness, suffering, and sadness in life? The reason for sadness, sickness, corruption, and evil in general is the fact that if there's not an opposition in all things, creation, existence, everything is not created, not existent, non-existent, not simply irrelevant, but non-existent. If there's no opposition, then there's no presence versus absence, no light versus darkness, no movement versus stillness, neither sense nor insensibility. Opposition enables both existence and is a demonstration of God and the reality of our being, of our agency, of our uniqueness. Sickness, suffering, sadness, everything natural or normative in this life, or connection or arrangement of agents that both act and are acted upon, has its fullness in death, the final disconnecting, if you will. Death, physical death, disconnects us from our influence in this realm. Spiritual death disconnects us from God. What can we do? From the view of our nature and mind, and this is in the answer to 5b, from the view of our nature and mind, nothing. But God can enable us to see beyond this, seeing beyond being an extending of one's influence. Did any of you ever think of observation as influence? But God's grace, just as it enabled the initial connection and arrangements, the creation, can and does enable an empowering. We are still agents. He does not force us, but He does force the option, if you will. Well, existence calls for it, because otherwise, lacking the option, justice and hence existence would fly apart or be for naught, for lack of better terms. Since you can't exist without will or reason, this just isn't permitted to happen. It's kind of tied to the whole stupid attempts to work logic into a logic that you would find in such nonsensicals as, can God make a rock so big you can't lift it? Much like the childish and illogical infinity plus 1 or infinity plus 100, the inherent outflow of needing opposition, and hence disconnection and separation, becomes a need, again, for there to be true opposition, choice as agency, to provide a means of reconnecting and uniting, unifying, that is Christ. And since this is all tied to the requisites of existence, Christ, Messiah, anointed, chosen, is the best label for what or who was needed. Christ was needed. Just as the separation and disconnection had to be complete, so too needed to be the unification. So Christ, the chosen, was sent to effect an infinite atonement. Only He was able, because only He had the perfect connection. He is the great I Am, Alpha and Omega, beginning and end. Since it was infinite, His atonement, it enables all to be restored and all agents to actually preserve their agency, their choice, their purpose, their self-determination. The choice ultimately is life or death, Christ or death, individualism and power, or conformity and impotence. And this is kind of a summation. This wasn't in my comments, but I wanted to say we can ultimately choose to forsake our capacity to choose. And that's one of the sad realities of what God's given us in our existence, is that we can choose to forfeit a portion of our capacity to continue in choosing to some degree. We can't undo it all, because we'll always be agents, because Christ's love extends to all, but the degree to which we accept Christ will affect the degree to which we are granted power and influence and capacity and choice and eternal life to have all that the Father has, to be joint heirs with Christ.